Hello and welcome to Wednesday's programme.
Your headlines tonight. Who protects our protectors? After 2/3 of servicewomen faced unwanted sexual behaviour last year, ITV News has given rare access to a military court.
It was a free-for-all for who could sleep with you first. It was a competition, and then I reported that to a more senior officer, and then he ended up groping me.
Also tonight, one of the region's largest homelessness charities says it's heartened by the Prime Minister's plans to get every rough sleeper off the streets by Christmas.
A North Devon woman relives being caught up in the 2004 tsunami in Sri Lanka and why she now works for a charity which provided aid. And
Save Our Seagrass, the project restoring biodiversity off the Falmouth coast.
Good evening. First tonight, women who were sexually abused and assaulted while serving in the armed forces have told ITV News they were failed by the systems which were meant to protect them. Latest figures reveal 2/3 of all servicewomen faced unwanted sexual behaviour last year.
Well, last night we heard shocking testimony from some who suffered sexual violence, and tonight, as part of a new documentary called Her Fight, ITV News has been given rare access to a military investigative crime unit and a military court. The Ministry of Defence says staff there are working tirelessly to root out offending from the armed forces.
But is it protecting victims? Georgia Scott has been speaking to women whose experiences include references to sexual assault and abuse. Some are played by actors with their names changed and voices altered using AI to protect their identity.
I've been raped by 12 different people multiple times and sexually assaulted. I've lost count, honestly.
It was a career promising pride, but instead brought mainly fear.
I've lost count of the amount of times I've been groped on my chest and between my legs.
ITV News has spoken to many women who served in the British military who say they were trapped inside a toxic culture. Kate joined the armed forces hoping it would change her life, and it did, just not in the way she'd ever imagined.
It was a free-for-all for who could sleep with you first. It was a competition, and then I reported that to a more senior officer, and then he ended up groping me.
After months of feeling isolated, Kate was raped by a different colleague. Armed with text messages from her attacker apologising for his behaviour, she assumed the process of reporting the assault would be straightforward. Far from it. Both the groping incident and the rape allegation were handled inside a court-martial. That's different from a civilian criminal court where there's a judge and 12-person jury. At a court-martial, there's what's known as a judge-advocate, and instead of a jury, the case will be heard by 3 to 6 members of the military, known as the board.
There was heckling in the courtroom and your whole personal life is put out there. The groping was found guilty and he was discharged from service. And the serious sexual assault was found not guilty. I just feel like he wasn't really robbed of his career in the same way that I was.
After the court case, Kate was medically discharged from service because of her mental health issues. And it's women like her that the Ministry of Defence claims it's committed to better supporting. Historically, anyone wanting to report a crime would go to the military police or their own chain of command. But in 2022, the Defence Serious Crime Command was set up. The unit is staffed by members of the RAF, Navy and the Army, but any investigation sits outside of someone's direct chain of command. It's hoped that that will mean more victims feel confident enough to come forward. But is the process truly independent? Anyone serving in the military can report a crime to the civilian police or the military police. Staff here say they'll be supported through any route.
We want to secure the right outcomes for victims by investigating professionally, and in 2023 we set up the Victim Witness Care Unit, which provides a really high standard of trauma-informed, victim-focused support.
It is in that specialist unit where staff say they try to overcome the many challenges that victims face.
From our initial engagement to the progression of the case to the court-martial, we can dedicate the time and commit the time to developing that relationship with that individual.
Staff here supported one soldier who we're calling Gemma. She was sexually assaulted by a serving officer at a party.
I felt extremely angry initially, and a lot of my anger was driven towards the army and facilitating an environment to allow somebody to behave in that manner. I now understand that it's the individual's actions and the individual that should be held to account rather than an organisation.
Gemma's attacker was discharged from service and jailed, but she continued to serve.
Things will only change with the military if people report individuals. But I also believe that it's not victims' responsibilities to report to protect other victims. It is the military's and any organisation's responsibility to hold people to account and set the standards.
There are, however, still widespread concerns that women are not being protected.
The key challenge is having to deal with systems which are essentially internal military systems, which are not independent. We've had cases where somebody from the chain of command has emailed the military police investigators to offer a view on the matter that they have just opened.
The military has promised to root out offending from the armed forces, but has it delivered? According to latest Ministry of Defence figures, there were 406 investigations into reports of sexual offences in 2025. The same year, just 57 people were found guilty at a military court. That same year, there were 85 investigations into reports of rape, and just 6 people were found guilty.
It is a judicial process. What we must ensure is that judicial integrity, and of course, once it goes to trial, you're in the hands of the board, the jury.
Is it fair that the case is heard by serving members of the military?
Yes, I think it is. I think it's fair on the basis that I know what goes into bringing a board to the court. We have a detailed deconfliction process to ensure that no member of the board is in any way connected to any party to the proceedings. That's vitally important.
There's a criticism that the military is marking its own homework by using those internal systems. What do you say to that?
I am aware of those debates. Our judiciary are also independent. And in fact, to dispel another myth, they're not actually employed by the MOD, they're actually employees of the Ministry of Justice, and they're appointed to serve in the court-martial.
After years of feeling ignored, the women we've spoken to do hope that change will one day come. I wondered what advice you would give to a young woman who was thinking about joining the army or the armed forces.
Don't not join. But what I would say is use that voice more. Don't be silenced. Don't be scared.
Well, Georgia joins us in the studio now. Georgia, we've heard some absolutely harrowing stories over the past 2 days, and Kate's story tonight was also shocking.
Absolutely, it was. Like the other women we've spoken to, Kate says this kind of inappropriate behaviour started as soon as she started serving. Fast forward a few months, as we heard, she was then subject to a sexual assault by a senior officer who she grew to trust. And she told us, as well as the other women, it's not just the trauma of what happened to them. They say it's the trauma of not feeling listened to, not feeling believed or taken seriously that really brings a long-term impact.
What about the Ministry of Defence? What have they had to say about this?
Yeah, well, we put all of the women's experiences to the Ministry of Defence's lead on justice and conduct, Sam DeFord. She says there's hard work ongoing as they try to address these cultural issues. And she says she wants to ensure that that investigative and that justice process is supporting victims.
Defence has recognised it really needs to grip this, it needs to deliver real change. But I think we're also not naive that there's one silver bullet that is going to solve this. Listening to those voices of victims and survivors, we've instituted a number of independent routes that folk can go down now. So for example, whether it's going to the Victim and Witness Care Unit, whether it's going to Defence Serious Crime Unit, whether it's going to the civilian police, which is absolutely fine as well. But I think also what we are seeing now is those cases starting to go through the service justice system. We don't have a backlog, so they're going through at greater pace. I think a testament to the support we provide is we have virtually no folk who are withdrawing from cases once they reach court. Defence is taking action regardless of your rank, whether you're the most junior person or whether you're right at the top of the organisation.
Well, it's a really clear message, isn't it? But the word culture is what is coming back time and time again as we've started to look into this issue. Everyone across the board that we've spoken to agrees that that isn't something that is fixed overnight. But what is clear is that the women we've spoken to says there is a real urgency to overcome those issues because they think there are women just like them who are feeling unsafe and unprotected.
OK, Georgia, thank you very much.
Well, if you've been affected by any of the issues raised in that report, there's lots of information and support on our website, and you can see a full version of the investigation called Her Fight on the West Country section of ITVX.
Right, let's bring you the rest of the day's news. And one of the region's biggest homelessness charities, St Petrox, says it's heartened by Andy Burnham's plans to get every rough sleeper off the streets in time for Christmas.
Well, the South West will get almost £43 million in extra funding to provide emergency accommodation. Areas of Cornwall, Devon and Somerset have some of the highest numbers of rough sleepers outside London. Well, our political correspondent Alicia Fitzgerald is in Westminster for us. Alicia, this is a significant investment announced today, isn't it?
It certainly is, and ending rough sleeping was Andy Burnham's first pledge when he stood outside Number 10 on his first day as Prime Minister. And today we've heard there's going to be some extra money there, as well as a bit of a timeline with Andy Burnham saying that all rough sleepers will be offered accommodation for this winter. Now, as with most of Burnham's policy so far, the responsibility about where exactly this money goes will be down to local authorities and mayors. That seems to be a bit of a theme from Andy Burnham, and that's kind of the crux of it, what we know.
This is the right thing to do. I feel very passionately about this. I spoke in Downing Street when I came into office about putting a care for people at the heart of everything that we do. And that can't be done if you've got people who've just got nowhere to go and are left sleeping in the streets. In this country, I don't think, in this day and age, anybody should be forced to sleep rough. And actually, when you do leave people sleeping rough, it can often cost more to the state because people can be in and out of A&E and in and out of hospital beds. And
there are, of course, some doubts and some questions about the logistics of this policy. For example, is moving rough sleepers into temporary accommodation just making the issue of homelessness less visible? And Andy Burnham himself has said that the money allocated to this so far is simply not going to be enough to cure the entire issue of homelessness. But Andy Burnham and St Petrox homelessness charity in Exeter both say that this is a really positive place to start.
Well, we're definitely moving in the right direction. We have a Prime Minister who understands, or seems to understand, some of the real nuts and bolts of homelessness. We've had some false starts in the past, sometimes by ministers who didn't really get it. You get the sense that Andy Burnham and the Housing Minister get it this time round, and we're hopeful. But the crucial thing is, I think Andy Burnham said in his announcement this morning, this is a crucial first step. It is only a first step, but it's a really good one.
Andy Burnham isn't the first Prime Minister to say that he wants to put an end to rough sleeping, but he's clearly here trying to draw a dividing line between himself and his predecessor Keir Starmer by putting it so high upon his governmental agenda. Now, the real devil will be in the detail, of course, when he comes back to Westminster in September. That's when we'll hear so much scrutiny from opposition MPs who are already asking lots of questions about how exactly this will work.
OK, Alicia, in Westminster, thanks very much for that.
Now, a woman from North Devon who was caught up in the Boxing Day tsunami in Sri Lanka in 2004 has described how fundraising by the Disasters Emergency Committee saved countless lives. Madara Hetiarachi now works for the DEC, which is marking 60 years of appeals.
From the Ethiopian famine of the 1980s to the ongoing conflict in the Middle East, it's raised a staggering £2.5 billion, using television to get its powerful message across. Well, on World Humanitarian Day, Hannah Ludlow has been looking back at the organisation's work.
The first TV appeal for the Disasters Emergency Committee came after an earthquake in eastern Turkey in 1966. The BBC and ITV both ran appeals, raising the equivalent of more than £10 million in today's money.
The DEC system is unique because it actually gives the aid agencies access to broadcasters' airtime in a way that no other organisation can. The three criteria for an appeal are need, the ability of the agencies to help, but above all, public willingness to fund the rescue operation or the aid operation. And that public willingness to help comes from watching the coverage and feeling that there's something I would like to do as a citizen to help these people.
One of the DEC's early appeals in the 1960s was for war victims in Nigeria. Mike Aronson was a young aid worker on the ground.
I went as a relief worker. It was extremely powerful, life-changing experience, really, for me. I think people are just compassionate and generous and want to be offered a safe, reliable way of doing good. And that's what the DEC provides.
Throughout the years, the DEC has impartially supported communities impacted by man-made disasters like war and natural disasters. Among the largest of those was on Boxing Day in 2004, when an earthquake off the coast of Indonesia caused a tsunami which hit 7 countries. Madara Hetiarachi from North Devon was visiting family in Sri Lanka at the time. She now works for the DEC.
It felt really eerie because we didn't know what was happening. We were thinking of floods, and then as the hours went by, the true picture emerged, and just the sheer devastation. At the time, there was rescue efforts coming in, so the scale was huge.
A DEC appeal raised a staggering £392 million. That would be more than £700 million today.
Any donation you're able to give is hugely appreciated.
More recently, events like the Concert for Ukraine, broadcast on ITV following the escalation of the conflict in 2022, played a part in the overall success of the appeal. In 2024, the DEC began its appeal to help people suffering the consequences of the conflict in the Middle East. And just last month, the DEC began its 80th appeal after the earthquake in Venezuela. In just 2 days, the British public raised almost £9 million. That total now stands at £20 million.
Millions of lives changed forever in just moments.
60 years, 80 appeals. The DEC has for decades provided a generous British public with a way to help people in their hour of greatest need.
Hannah Ludlow with that report there. Well, for more on this, we can speak now to Ruth James from Oxfam, which is one of the charities which the DEC has helped to fund in disaster-hit communities. And she joins us now from her home in Newquay. Ruth, thank you very much for speaking to us. Now, you've seen firsthand, haven't you, the difference these appeals have made. So which response missions have you been involved in?
Most recently to Gaza last year, where I did see our teams and our local partners delivering aid to people who were trying to survive the most unimaginable conditions that I've ever seen. I went out to displacement camps up and down Gaza and saw our partners delivering fresh drinking water, safe drinking water to communities there. At that time, there was almost no water available for people at all, and they were, drinking seawater or dirty water, and obviously that causes a huge amount of diseases. And I saw them receiving clean drinking water on a daily basis, which was, amazing to see.
Yeah, it's incredible. So how important is the work of the DEC then?
It's extremely important for us as humanitarians when we are working on a new response and we hear that the DEC is launching an appeal. You know, what we know is that that means that we will be getting support and financial support that will enable us to meet the needs of people and deliver life-saving aid quickly, which is really, really important in a crisis.
So what's your hope then for the DEC appeals going forward?
We're seeing an increasing number of crises across the world, and some funding sources are decreasing for us. And the DEC is a lifeline essentially for people in crisis. It's essential that it keeps going, and we really hope to see more and more money coming through the DEC. One of the great things about this appeal is that it is, individuals donating money. And I think that means a lot to people when they're going through crisis. They need food and they need water and they need shelter, but they also, need to feel that somebody cares about what they're going through. And I think that the fact that it's, individuals donating money from their pockets means a lot to people.
Yeah, I can imagine. It really does. OK, Ruth, thank you so much for joining us and speaking to us tonight.
Thank you.
Now, seagrass is vitally important to our waterways, storing carbon 35 times faster than rainforests and providing a habitat for thousands of fish species.
Well, now, £1.8 million is being spent in Cornwall restoring meadows off the coast of Falmouth. It's part of plans to boost seagrass by 15% over the next 20 years. Kathy Wardle reports.
When it comes to conservation, this is as hands-on as it gets. We've come to see a pair of divers from the Ocean Conservation Trust painstakingly replanting seagrass on the seabed just off the coast of Falmouth. And they've got a couple of ways of doing it.
So we have our hydro seeder here, and this is basically just a gloop gun, and we fill this with a load of gloop and seeds, and then we activate this on the seabed with just pulling the handle like that, like a big cork gun. But today we're going to be planting with our beads. So this is made of the same stuff that we put in our hydro seeder. We put a load of seeds in this and we add a load of calcium and it hardens them up. And then what we do is when we go down to the seabed, we'll just poke these into the sand, and then after a few weeks and months, they'll start to germinate. And it's a really nice way of doing it because lots of people can get involved. We have lots of divers getting involved. And these just break down in the sediment between 1 and 2 weeks. And then another way we're doing it is at kind of around this time of year, we'll collect our seagrass reproductive shoots and then we'll store them at the National Marine Aquarium. And then when we're ready to use them, we just extract them on a tap system and we plant them in these little bags. And the plants do really well in here. And then when they're ready to go back in the sea, what we do is you get like a little trout and then we'll dig a little hole and we'll pick these bags in.
Over the last 3 months, they've planted 240,000 seeds with the aim of making the seagrass habitats of Falmouth healthier.
Seagrasses in Falmouth and other marine protected areas are really quite important. They're areas of high biodiversity. They provide ecosystem services such as carbon sequestration, and sadly within the SAC, so within the marine protected area of Falmouth, we've seen those decline. So the Ocean Conservation Trust and partners through More Nature are looking to reverse that decline by reinstalling or putting plants in as a catalyst to regenerate these meadows.
When the team resurfaced after a successful planting session, they told us they were pleased with what they saw on the seabed.
A little while ago, we planted a few hundred bags, which is the bags that we showed you, just as a trial run. And we just kind of stumbled upon them and they look really good. I'm really happy because I've spent a lot of time planting these up and, it's kind of cross fingers. Are they going to work? Is there going to be a storm? So many factors. And we went down and they all look really big and really healthy. So I was super happy.
The project More Nature is being done over a 3-year cycle and includes other project partners like Cornwall Wildlife Trust.
The
brilliant thing about this is that we're working on the subtidal seagrass in this bay, but further up the Fowl, Cornwall Wildlife Trust are doing some fantastic work trying to put in intertidal seagrass, and then there's also an oyster component to this work. So it's a true seascape level project, which is really exciting for us. I think with the lessons learned from previous projects, we're really hopeful we can make a difference and improve the status of the seagrass in this special area of conservation.
The planting sites will be regularly monitored to see if it's working, with further planting each summer until a 25-acre patch in the shallows of Falmouth Bay has been restored. Cathy Waddle, ITV News, Falmouth.
Oh, some incredible work going on there.
Prime example of conservation work in our region, isn't it?
Absolutely wonderful.
Absolutely amazing. Right, time to get a weather update now. Here's Philippa Drew.
A clear start makes way for a day of ancient discoveries. TUI sponsors ITV West Country Weather.
Hello there. Well, it has been a bit of a mixed bag over the last 24 hours or so, with rain clearing to showers, and it sets the tone for a fairly changeable couple more days ahead. Showery through tomorrow and into Friday, but it does look as though it will turn drier for the weekend, and for all of us a somewhat fresher feel on the way. So this is how the pressure pattern looks over the coming days. For the time being, low pressure in charge, fronts sinking southwards, and those fronts providing the focus for further showery conditions to come. But into the weekend, high pressure begins to rebuild from the west, and that will settle things down once again. Out there at the moment, though, still a fair few showers on the scene, and they'll continue to feed their way eastwards across the region through the rest of this evening and overnight. Some of them quite heavy, but they will be moving through at a fair old pace with the brisk west to northwesterly breeze. And that breeze in turn will actually keep the temperatures up, so another relatively mild night, probably hovering at around 14-15 degrees for most of us. So tomorrow morning, sunshine and showers from the word go. I think probably more in the way of showers as we head into the afternoon. And there's every chance that some of them could be heavy, perhaps the odd rumble of thunder, maybe a little hail thrown in. The wind's taking a northwesterly turn as well, and that will just nudge the temperatures down a little. If you're headed to the coast, these are the times of high water, just the one there for both Exmouth and Portland around the middle part of the day. So yes, still a fair few showers on the scene tomorrow, and still the risk of some further showers on Friday. But as we head into the weekend, drier and brighter, temperatures in the low to mid 20s and quite a bit more comfortable overnight.
TUI sponsors ITV West Country Weather.
Philippa's forecast had everything. After weeks of saying it's just sun, sun and sun, she had hail, rain, sunshine.
She did, but it's so nice to see the rain, isn't it? Our gardens need this rain, so...
Yes, we desperately need it. Yes. At least the weather forecasters are happy.
Yeah. Right, well, that's it from the two of us. I'll have the late news for you at 10:30.
Yeah, after the break, though, the ITV News continues with Mary. But for now.